In this short video, I'm going to show you how you calculate the LMTD of a heat exchanger. LMTD stands for log mean temperature difference and is the indicator of the average temperature difference between the hot and cold fluids in a heat exchanger, and can be represented with this formula here on the right, where T1 is hot in subtracted by cold out, and T2 is hot out subtracted by cold in. So if we want to calculate that on a real heat exchanger, make a live calculation, what we need to do is, so looking at this live PFD, we've got a preheat chain where we've got 3 heat exchangers heating up crude oil. The orange line represents the hot fluid, which is going to be warming up the crude oil. So to calculate the LMTD of this heat exchanger here, and to show the value here and on this trend, what we need to do is this. So here I've taken a screenshot and added some labels to show you which temperatures we want to use in our calculation. So we've got represented on the orange line, we've got hot in and hot out values, and represented by the red line flowing from left to right, we've got our cold in and cold out. So plugging this into our equation here, we can calculate T1, so that's 212 subtracted by 149, and T2 is 206 subtracted by 138, which gives us an LMTD of 65.5 to 1 decimal place. So what we want to do next is calculate this using the real tags and create a live calculation on the trend. So what I'm going to do first here is add the tags that I need for this calculation to my basket. I'm going to add them in the order that I need them, so it's easier for me to calculate my calculation. So I'm going to right click, add to basket, right click, add to basket, and so on. Once they're in the basket, I can then trend, and this is going to bring up the 4 tags here. So what I want to do is calculate my T1 and T2 values. So I'm going to add a tag, select calculation, build calc. I'm going to add an operator. I want the subtraction. I want 2 arguments, and I'm going to drag my tags in like so. I can see that the calculation has worked by the relevant spark lines here on the right hand side, indicating that there's data in the tags. Save, add. Yeah, now we can get our calculation. So what I want to do is edit that, just change the label a bit, and just label that T1. Save. Also, I'm going to right click and add this to the basket, so then I can use it later on. Again, what I want to do is add another tag. So we can see we've got the previous one there. I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to build the calc. Same again. Subtraction. Add another operator, and then I'll use my second 2 tags here. Which, there we have it. So I'm going to save that. Add. And then I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to edit. I'm going to change this to T2. Again, I'm going to add this to the basket because it just makes it easier to then use it in the next step of the calculation. So what I want to do now is add a new tag, clear this, and I want to build the calc. So next, what we want to do is basically do this step of the calculation. We've basically nested our 2 subtractions into 2 separate tags, and now we're going to use them to calculate the final log mean temperature difference. So to do that, I'm going to do it up here just because I find it slightly easier. I'm going to do a div. I know that there's going to be 2 operators. By pressing enter, I can see I've got that. In my div, I'm going to add my subtraction element between T1 and T2. So, like so. Now I can drag T1 into there. I can also drag T2 into there. And you can see that it's been added to the top trend up here. So then what I want to do in this section is I want to add a ln brackets, and then in there we also have a divide. So I'm going to do a div, open brackets. There's two arguments, so I'm going to do 0, 0, close it, and then press enter. And you can see now that we've got this statement here. So it's T1 divided by T2. So I'm going to drag them in like so. It's T1 and T2. So now we should see this bit come to life. We can see that our learn statement is working. And we can see that we've got a final result. So just to go over the calculation again, you've basically got a div of a subtraction between T1 and T2. So this is T1, that's T2. And then we've got a learn statement dividing our two together. Now when I press enter up here in the top bar, what that will do is it will expand out the relevant calculations that you've dragged in from the basket. So the next step to do now is to save that. I'm going to add that. And then we can see we've got our log mean temperature difference represented by this pink line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go edit. And I'm going to go Lmtd to label it. I'm going to save that. And then what I'm going to do is add that to the basket. So now we've got all our calculations that we've used in the basket ready to use. So I'm going to close this trend. And now what I can do is I can add a value here. So I'm going to open the KPI. I'm going to add an operator, which is here on the top left. And now I'm going to configure it. So we want a data tag. I want to take my log mean temperature difference calculation and I'm going to drag it up here. So you can see that it's basically come up. So we want to display it as a value. If we wanted to, we can show it as a spark line later. Decimal places, I want 1 decimal place. Color, it's fine how it is. I don't need a background color. So I'm going to save that. So now you can see that we've got our value. So I'm just going to bring it over to here to the bit to the left. Just going to close that basket and I'm going to save this. Take it out of edit mode and then put it into seamless mode so it looks nice. So now here you've got our log mean temperature difference for this heat exchanger. So I can click on that and trend it if I want. And I can see the calculation right here. So next I want to add this calculation to a trend below. So just like we've done earlier, I'm literally just going to drag the Lmtd down. I want to expand the time zone, so I want it to start from 1st of October at midnight. I want it to end on the 1st of November, as that is the time period that I would like to investigate. And I'm going to save that. So you can see here, this is how the value has been behaving over the past month. I'm going to leave it not in live mode because I want this time range to be fixed so that when I share this with other users that they can see this specific time range. If I want it to be a live calculation, I would change it to live mode. The tag above, this will update every 30 seconds. That is what the KPI is set to currently, and it can be adjusted in the settings menu if you want it to update faster. I will just tweak this trend ever so slightly. Just going to change the height to 400. Which will just make the page a little bit more compact. And then in here, I'm just going to add a description just so that we know which heat exchanger this was for. So it was X012202. So that when users come, they can hit the up arrow here and then they can see the description there. So I'm going to save that. Take this trend out of seamless. And there we have it. So there we've calculated the log mean temperature difference of a heat exchanger. We've added it to the KPI. And we've also created a trend. Any questions, please contact us at info@eigen.co. Be happy to help.